Good afternoon. I was talking to a friend recently, and he noticed his parents were slowing down a little bit. He said his dad's back was starting to hurt. His dad didn't really want to get up out of the house and do much anymore. And his wife's parents, although they're getting up there in age too. And so the question came to his mind: how do I figure out what my wife's parents' plans are, especially when it comes to aging? Now, that is a great question. Unfortunately, it is one rife with emotion and challenges all around whenever it comes to talking with loved ones, our parents in particular, about a topic that pretty much everybody wants to avoid: getting older and then the eventuality of dying. So, how do we bring that up? How do we talk to our parents about that in a tactful way, in a emotionally sensitive way? And so I have had these conversations with lots of clients through the years. Hopefully, they work with a good financial advisor, a financial planner that's bringing these things up, and maybe they are going to be more proactive with you. But if not, a few ways that I've seen clients tactfully bring up the idea of aging and aging parents and understanding plans are twofold. And these are two strategies that I use often when communicating with people in general. And so the first thing that I think of is stories. So stories are a part of who we are. It's a part of how we communicate. So telling stories opens up the mind, opens up the heart to be able to listen to a message maybe that would be harder to hear directly. So, for example, when we're talking about aging with our parents, perhaps you talk about what happened with your grandparents, maybe bringing that up at a family gathering, or sometime, not necessarily setting up a formal appointment or anything of that nature, but bringing up a story of what happened with grandma and how did it feel for your parents to go through whatever they had to go through, and asking them what they wish would have happened or could have happened, or maybe things that grandma or grandpa said to them. So if I'm trying to understand a story, especially if it relates to your parents in particular, if your loved ones, your grandparents had a tough time or didn't have a tough time, but they aged nonetheless, or there's an aunt or a family member, or maybe there's somebody recently that you can think of that has gone through the aging process or starting to go through the aging process, and bringing up that story is a way to open up the conversation. So that's really the first strategy that I suggest to clients a lot of times when we're talking about aging, in particular, bringing up aging with our parents, having a story to tell and to be able to relate to help ease the transition to the conversation. And the other thing is questions. So don't come in with loaded answers of what you want to happen or not happen, but just understanding and having questions to ask them, asking them just point blank: what are their plans? Have they considered it? How do those plans impact you, or your spouse or your children? And so having questions ready to ask whenever you bring up that conversation is going to be pivotal. And you want to think about, as the questions that we learned when we were kids, right? Who, what, when, where, how, why, all of those types of questions are great questions to ask, not to pry or to try to tell them what you want them to do, but understanding what their plans are, what their wishes are, because aging is a part of life. And it may not happen where they're completely incapacitated or something of that nature, but it is a major part of life that should be taken into consideration, in particular with your parents, perhaps expecting you to take on some sort of roles or responsibilities, or you or siblings to take on some sort of roles or responsibilities to help them through that aging process. It is oftentimes easier to have an understanding before the time happens, because even if they have those plans written out in documents, if something happens to your mom or something happens to your dad, you don't want to be having to chase down documents and trying to figure out what's going on. Then you would hopefully have had the conversation beforehand, so you know how to operate, or at least what the expectations are. And that is a lunchtime bite, a lunchtime lesson. For my name is Kyle Newell. I'm a certified financial planner practitioner. I own a fee only financial planning firm here in the Winter Garden, Florida, Orlando area. However, I work with clients all over the country. And happy to help with these aging conversations. If you do have questions about aging and how does that relate to your finances and aging with family in particular, drop a comment, send me a note, send me a message, send me an email. Happy to chat and happy to help out. And I hope you have a wonderful day and hope you have found value in this little lunchtime bite. And hopefully we'll see you next week. Take care.